And we are live. Welcome everyone to a special live movie discussion, movie review. I've been asked by a couple of people thoughts on the new Batman since I actually went out to watch a new movie in a theater. I never thought I would ever say in my life, the man who pulled me out of a 3-year exile from going to see movies was Robert Pattinson.
Right? Tell yourself that 10 years ago.
I'm a fan now. Though. And I've been a fan of his since The Rover, honestly. I thought he was fine as Cedric in Harry Potter. I thought he was fine as Edward in Twilight. But when I saw The Rover, I went, okay, this guy is actually like Hayden Christensen. Mm-hmm. He's a lot better than people give him credit for. So, I loved it. Blew me away. I had a great chat with my buddy Matt on Armchair Directors last night. It immediately shot up to my top 3 Batman movies ever, along with Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. So I don't want to really say it's the best one ever because I've been burned by that too often, right? Because you got to wonder, like, after a year, what's this going to be like? But I'm pretty confident in saying I think I will love this movie for many, many years to come because I felt exactly walking out of this like I did walking out of The Equalizer and Fury Road and Tron and all the movies I watch once a year since I saw them.
Yeah.
But how about you? Do you think it was better than Batman and Robin?
Well, I think I'll say it's the best one ever till the next best one ever.
Yeah.
I'm actually like you. My favorite Batman films were the '89 film, just because of pure nostalgia at this point, and the experience of seeing that, and it was so different. And then I really like Batman Begins. My favorite of the Nolan trilogy is Batman Begins. But they pegged the noir Batman just so well, and the detective Batman in the story. I think it just was almost flawless in my opinion. I really thought it was great.
You know, it's funny watching that movie. I'm trying to think like what is this like? Because everything's got to be like something. Nothing can be just completely new and original anymore, especially when you're a couple of reboots in. Hi there. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. Oh, by the way, I want to throw this out to anyone watching. Super chats are off on the live stream tonight. If you are feeling generous, head on over to childhealth.ca/donation. It's the Sick Kids Hospital in London, Ontario. They're amazing folks. And if you'd like, and if you're able, please make a donation directly to them. Thing about YouTube super chats is YouTube keeps 30% of the super chats. So there's a lot of great fundraisers on YouTube, but the fact is YouTube keeps 30% of it. So if you want to make a direct donation to them, they get all of your donation. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Talking about tone a second ago. So this movie I felt was more like the Adam West show than any other Batman thing I've ever seen. Not in the fun, campy sense, but in the sense that it's Batman standing there with cops.
Yeah.
And I needed to see that again. I was really, really excited when I heard this is the Detective Batman. I'm like, that's different. They've never, it's like getting the Joe movie that's closely based on Larry Hama's comics. That's how that would feel. It's like, you finally did it. You finally went to the origin. And so watching him stand around with cops and be a detective and be the best detective in the room was so satisfying. And it was like the Adam West show. It's like, just without the camp, they're just, interested in what he has to say. Just kind of like a darker mirrorverse, dark universe version of the Adam West show. But in terms of tone, like, I can't think of any moving Batman thing, like, so excluding comics or games. In terms of shows with actors performing, I can't think of anything closer in tone to this than the animated series. Like, this is the animated series I felt come to real life.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was my impression of it was beyond just kind of the obvious kind of Batman noir, which that, and I think they've even said explicitly that Long Halloween was where they got a lot of the inspiration from it. But it felt very much like a year one type Batman, although I guess technically it was year 2.
Yeah.
But they just nailed the tone. It felt very much like a movie like Seven. I think they're really channeling that hardcore detective noir feel in it. Yeah, it was there was a certain degree of broodiness, but I think it really worked, and they complemented that with really good action sequences,
Mm-hmm.
and just strong payoffs. Yeah,
Not an action movie though, like
no.
just the perfect amount
Hmm.
of action scenes.
Yeah.
Not boring. A
Hmm.
3-hour movie that could have easily been boring, but it was really, it was like a Christopher Nolan Batman movie with less action, but that didn't necessarily make it worse. It was with more intellectual, stuff going on.
It was more grounded, I thought.
Grounded, right? Which the
Mhm.
Nolan movies were grounded already. So I
Mhm.
thought they went perfectly if you're a big fan of the Nolan movies.
Yeah.
Uh, Rose Show Film says they really love this movie. The cinematography in this film is amazing. It was great, despite being really dark. It was fantastic. Jay Bartlett is here. How you doing, Jay? Good evening, my friends. And Ken is also here from Toy Connections. Good to see you.
But
Riddle
yeah,
me this. It can be cruel, poetic, or blind, but when it's denied, it's violence you may find. What a great villain! I'm so glad they didn't go with Joker again in this movie. I love the Joker, but the Joker's been done amazingly. I mean, Matt said last night it's won an Oscar twice, that
mhm.
character, so it's good. Like, give something else a try. Stephanie,
Yeah.
hello there.
Yeah, I actually just watched Joker again. Actually, this evening while I was doing some other stuff, kind of on the background, just because I wanted to get that kind of that contrast with the Batman. And I think those two movies are kind of complementary in that way because they're pure tone, and they really kind of, I think, get to the core of the character and not aren't necessarily you know, pitch perfect in terms of comics, but they really get what that character was all about. They kind of do something else with the story and the character that you don't really see. Joker was like that. I think those kind of movies are what makes me think that WB is getting it right with comic book movies. They've had a few missteps,
Yeah,
but then they pull something like the Batman or the Joker or just Joker out of
Aquaman,
out of
Wonder
their
Woman.
hats, and it's like, wow, you really do get it. So
Yeah, it really needs to be a
mhm,
work in, like, as a viewer, I think
mhm,
it's important to not just decide forever and ever, like I hate them forever or I love them forever. And that's not much better. Just going into a movie, loving it before you've seen it. Red Letter Media have done a couple of parody skits of that. I love this movie. It's not out yet. Right?
yeah,
What a great trailer. I love this movie. So you can't really do that either. But
yeah,
Warner Brothers, DC comic movies, they're really an incredible work in progress. Like, I felt like they really stumbled with Justice League and they've really righted the ship. And more often than not, I'm really enjoying a DC movie now, instead of,
mhm,
oh man, what are they like? They're not trying to copy anymore. They're
mhm,
just letting it breathe. They're just
yeah,
letting it be natural. This movie, I think, was kind of made under the same circumstances as Batman Begins. There's just no pressure,
mhm,
right? Okay, we've got a lot of upset people. They're unhappy. There's no pressure. They hate it while we're making it. There are people who are just hating it before the thing was even done. We hate the casting choice of Batman. We hate this, not another one. I kind of wanted to see an old Ben Affleck Batman movie too. Like, I was one of the people who wasn't happy when he was cast.
mhm.
But after seeing the Snyder cut of Justice League, I went, son of a gun, he's one of the best
Oh
things
yeah.
in this movie. So that's surprising.
He
Um,
was Ben Affleck. I actually, it's kind of a tough one because if I was going to be really honest, I'd say I really wanted to see a Batfleck movie. I love Ben Affleck. He's great. I mean, anybody that saw Argo, it was like, oh, he's a perfect Bruce Wayne / Batman,
yeah,
and I was looking forward to that, and I really liked his Batman stuff in Batman versus Superman and Justice League. So it was kind of I felt like it was a miss not to at least get one movie of that. But if what we got instead was the Batman, I'm quite happy with that. So
yeah. And this was supposed to be his movie. Like, this was
mhm,
going to be him, but I think it works a lot better. Um, going and not doing an origin story again. I think we're
mhm,
all okay with that. We kind of
yeah,
get the point, and you can't deviate from it too much. Like, you can't have Bruce Wayne be a war vet, and it's just, very important to the core of the character. It's like changing the Punisher's origin. No, his family has to be wiped out by the mob. That's the whole point of the Punisher. We're talking about spoilers here for folks in the live chat, so just giving you a warning here. We're about to talk about things that actually happen in the movie. So if you haven't seen it yet, you don't want to be spoiled, you might want to step away from this until after you've seen the movie. So Pattinson himself, I thought he was absolutely fantastic.
Great.
Where would you put him in terms of, because we got to do that every Batman movie, right?
Yeah,
you gotta rate the Batmans, and I thought he was like really up there with Kevin Conroy.
I think so. I think he in terms of his actual physical presence, I don't know that he could match maybe what Bale brought to the table. I think Bale carried himself in a very distinct way. But I think that he, on the other hand, brought something kind of new to the table that he didn't, Batman didn't really have before. I think he had more of a subtlety, more in the shadows, kind of subtle feeling. I think people were calling him kind of emo Batman, based on some of the trailer images.
The black,
yeah. And it worked because there was so much of that kind of internal monologue and the narration going on, which I really liked actually, and I thought it added a lot to that noir feel. But I think he was up there. He wasn't my favorite, but I think he was far from the worst.
The narration, just as the movie was starting, I was thinking, now what can they do different? And you can't just be different for the sake of being different. But when you're this many in, it's like you gotta try something fresh. And as soon as I heard the narration, I went, yeah, Gumshoe.
Yeah,
old Gumshoe movie. He's gonna be the detective. And then when I saw the cowl and the way they gave it a collar that almost looks like a trench coat, I'm like, oh yeah, they're leaning into it. They're not. Yeah. There's like certain elements in the Nolan movies that were like that, but this one really, same with the fear, striking fear in his in the thugs' hearts. They touched on that in the Nolan movies, but in this one they really sunk their teeth into it. That's what I really liked about this movie. It takes the good stuff of the previous Batman movies and it goes, okay, let's expand on that. And as I was telling Matt last night, I thought this Robert Pattinson Batman was kind of like the Wesley Snipes Blade of the Batman. I thought he had all of their strengths and none of their weaknesses. So he was like, he got like Bale's cool looking suit, similar to it with the Kevlar. And he used his voice, but he didn't go overboard like Bale did in The Dark Knight, just too much in the Dark Knight. He had the detectiveness of Adam West, but none of the spandex or the camp. He had that. I don't know what you would call it. Michael Keaton had, that kind of still manicness that Keaton didn't have. Stoicism. He didn't have to do anything, but this guy is a powder keg. It's not like Clint Eastwood's not a powder keg. Like in the Dollars trilogy, he's standing there. I wouldn't call him a powder keg. He's just laconic. He's cool. Pattinson in this movie is not laconic. He's, he could go boom at any moment, just like Michael Keaton. So I thought that was kind of cool how he reminded me of all the favorite traits of other Batmen.
Well, that was the thing, wasn't it? And I think their narration and the monologue kind of really helped that. That you got the sense that he was really kind of just on the edge, and he hadn't really developed his sort of Bruce Wayne persona yet. He was he was really just teetering on this abyss, really. And I think for me at least, that was some of what this movie was about, was that Batman really finding himself. As existential as I guess that sounds.
but it is. It is more of a deeper movie like that.
But at the conclusion, he's kind of finding his purpose and finding that he can be this like inspiration and source of hope to Gotham, and paints himself in this sort of much different kind of light. And I thought that's one of the things that was so interesting about it. One of the reasons I really liked Batman Begins as a movie so much was, for me, it was really one of the first Batman movies that was really about Batman or Bruce Wayne. It's like, you
Yeah.
really, all of the movies up till then, really the villains had taken the center
He
stage.
gets lost in the shuffle.
Yeah, and it works because Batman's got the most interesting villains, and they've done pretty well up to that point, with the exception of Batman and Robin, in the villain category. But they really told Bruce Wayne's story in Batman Begins, and I thought that was one of the things that was so good about the Batman, was you really got into the mind of this guy that was fractured, and when he starts questioning his family, and if Thomas Wayne was really a good person, and his roots and his family and all this sort of stuff, when Riddler gets him to kind of start doubting himself, and Falcone and all those guys, you see what it does to him, and you can see this like this tearing him apart kind of James Dean moment, where he's has this sort of crisis, and it worked, and I thought it worked so good, because somebody that is gonna in real life, and if you're telling a realistic story, somebody that's gonna dress up like that and go out and beat up criminals every night, they're not gonna be very healthy, like mentally. There's stuff going on there, and I think they really did a good job kind of depicting that.
Yeah, I think that's an important part of the character. You want to get nuts, let's get nuts. Keaton only has that one slip up in the movie, but he shows us like he is bat crap crazy in that movie. And I like Val Kilmer, but I don't think really knew who he was playing. He was playing like Adam West Batman, which even Adam West in that campy 66 show had a gravitas to him. He had a bit of a cloud over him when he's, Bruce Wayne. Just that kind of sullenness. He had Dick Grayson, which I just noticed your name now. Dick Grayson decided, holy this man, Batman, holy that Batman. But even West tried to remember, okay, his parents were murdered. Totally interesting concept to have Bruce Wayne's parents not the saints that they're always depicted, and hapless victims. That's something to struggle with too.
Yeah.
The really cool thing about that end you just mentioned a few minutes ago is that it's, instead of a big action ending like a lot of Batman movie have, even the Chris Nolan movies, which strive to be more grounded, realistic, and with a big action sequence, Dark Knight is kind of more of like a dramatic ending. But this movie the climax is Batman healing from trauma. I didn't expect that ever in a Batman movie. But coming to terms, you see him earlier in the movie, and he's like, he just wants to reach out to that poor orphan and help him, but he doesn't know how. He's too damaged. He can't. He isn't capable. You got to heal yourself before you can help other people. And that's what makes that end of the movie so powerful. It's not just him saving kids. If you look at it a little bit deeper, it's him healing himself. It's him allowing himself to connect with people again.
Yeah. And that was, you could see that even at the end. And again, this is spoiler territory. So I hope whoever doesn't want it spoiled is just covering their ears right now. But when him and Selina Kyle go their separate ways, and you could see even that sort of that hesitance where he's thinking, like, if I follow her and kind of throw this away and pursue this, this is the fork in the road. And then he turns and goes the other direction. And I thought that was really symbolic, that way. He's choosing Batman, and he's choosing to be the symbol for the city and be this role, and it was a choice that way. I think sometimes it's as if because his parents were killed, when Bruce Wayne's parents were killed. I think there's this kind of idea sometimes that the choice was kind of thrust upon him, and this is why he's doing it. But you kind of forget that he made the choice to do this in the end, and he was the one that did the training, and if you read the comics, went all through the League of Shadows and all that stuff and the ninja stuff and everything. But it was very much his choice to become Batman. So I liked at the end that they like gave him the choice again, where it's like, here he could follow this woman, or and try to pursue a normal life, or go back to Batman.
And it's refreshing to see Batman just be a larger than life hero, because sometimes in these superhero movies, not only does the hero get lost in the shuffle, I mean, he sort of does even in The Dark Knight, the second installment of the Nolan movies. Joker steals the show, and then you got Harvey Dent in there too, and even Gordon, has a lot to do in that movie. So Batman just kind of falls by the wayside in that one. And in this one, he is unstoppable. Like, he takes full blast shots and just keeps on going. He's almost killed at one point, and he just keeps on going. The adrenaline shot was such an awesome scene. But what was especially cool is not just physical dominance. Sometimes in movies of the past, let's say 10 years, maybe a little bit more, some of our favorite old characters are getting their legs cut out from under them in order to push an agenda. And the new Star Wars movies come to mind. It's like characters didn't get to do what was true to their character because other characters, regardless of any gender agendas or anything like that, ethnic agendas or anything like that. I'm not talking about that. It's just this whole idea of we got this new character, this, that needs to get the torch passed to them from this established character. That never happens in this movie. Batman's the hero. He's saving this guy. He's saving her. And it's not even one for one. He saves her, and I was surprised. I'm like, there's no catch. There's no quip. There's no. It was Luke Skywalker in that Mandalorian season finale of season 2. There's just Luke rolls in, saves the day, the end. Full stop, as the kids like to say these days. Same here. Batman just saves, and there's no quips or anything like that. And at the end, when Selena saves him, I'm like, okay, I guess they're one for one. He turns right back around and saves her life. And I'm like, they're not even anymore. Like, how did that get past, whoever's making movies these days? So again, that was another thing that made it really feel like a movie that was made before the turn of the century, when all that stuff is just feeling so forced in movies.
Yeah, I think there's ways to do it right. And I think even some movies, like even some of the Marvel movies, have done it right. And then there were some that I think did not do it right. Yeah, I'm looking at.
I wonder which one you're thinking.
I'm looking at the comments here, and I've got to talk with this Gamer Buds thing where he says the only weird thing about the movie is how many times Batman knocks on the front door to get into the Iceberg Lounge. You know what I thought was great about that though is, did you notice how he had to beat his way in as Batman, and as Bruce Wayne he just knocks and walks in?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw that as like a learning moment for Batman, where he's like, sometimes maybe subtlety is the way to go.
That's a great point. I didn't catch that, but that's a great point. Yeah, it's it reminds me of the Terminator, tearing cars open and hot wiring them, and then learning, check the keys.
Check the key. Yeah.
But also said earlier, you also have to rank their Bruce Waynes and Batman differently, since they're pretty much two different characters. Barely any Bruce Wayne in this movie, which surprised me. For a 3-hour movie, there's very, very little Bruce. They've never done that before too. That was what made it refreshing. So if you're burned out on Batman, if you feel like I've seen too many Batman, I get it. This is not if you've seen one, you've seen them all. This is different. This is 3 hours of Batman, a little bit of Bruce Wayne, and it's a very interesting concept that he puts Bruce Wayne on the shelf during this movie. Bruce Wayne is sacrificed. There is really not a dual personality. There's a couple scenes with Bruce, but for the most part, Bruce is sacrificed in order for Batman to exist. And there's not just the toll of not being able to go out and live life. I mean, even when Bruce wakes up in the morning, he can't stand the light because he's so nocturnal as Batman. It's like he's got to wear sunglasses in the mansion during the day because he just is not a creature that even exists anymore. He's just waiting for Batman to emerge.
Well, I love when Riddler touches on that whole idea when he's questioning him, and Riddler says, I know who you are. This is the real you. When he's talking as Batman, and they'd kind of did that misdirection almost, where he talks about Bruce Wayne, and you think, oh my god, he knows he's Bruce Wayne, and then he says like, oh, we missed him or something, and you're like, oh, okay, he didn't quite get it. But when he's talking about his real face, and that's who Bruce Wayne really is. Batman, his playboy millionaire thing, is the facade. So
do you think Riddler knows the truth?
No, because he mentions Bruce Wayne to Batman, and you think he means that, like, I know you're Bruce Wayne,
Bruce
and then
Wayne.
not just a few lines later, he says about the thing about how he didn't get him, or he missed him. I can't remember what it was now. It's but that was, and it was like, oh, okay, no, he didn't know, Yeah,
But
it was clever though.
It almost looks like Pattinson's crying.
Mm-hmm.
When he's like, does he know? Like because he's hanging by a thread, and that's maybe the last thread he's hanging by. Like if he knows that, then I truly am done. Jay says, I also liked how Batman just walks into the frame at the criminals. So badass, just walks right up to them, and you can actually hear him coming. And Bud says, my ranking as far as performances are Kevin Conroy. There you go. Michael Keaton, Robert Pattinson, Ben Affleck, Christian Bale, Val Kilmer, George Clooney. Adam West is perfect on his own category. He really does stand apart from everyone else. That's a great point.
See, Clooney for me is one of those rare exceptions, because I thought his Bruce Wayne was actually pretty good, but I thought his Batman was terrible. Which you wouldn't think, what would be hard about, putting on a cowl and be like, yes, I'm Batman.
So is it okay? It's such a tough character to play. Is it okay to do a really stoic, dark, brooding Batman? And because Bale kind of tried to do this, and then do a larger than life, jet setting playboy Bruce Wayne. Hey, everybody. Because I don't know. Like, doesn't that, I know it's an act. It's his Bruce Wayne is the persona. That's the thing about Batman. But as a performer, how does that make you feel, or as an audience?
Yeah, I think one of the things I liked about Batman Begins too was that part of him was developing that persona. Like when he, it was like, he's talking to Fox in the first one about like, no, was it Fox? Was it Alfred? About how you're gonna have to create some excuses about this, strange behavior and this almost nocturnal sort of behavior and all this sort of stuff. And then you can see them start kind of developing this whole idea of the jet setting playboy in Batman Begins, and they really bring it home in Dark Knight. I think it was almost over the top, but. I don't know. That's a weird one. I've always heard that they cast Bruce Wayne first, and Batman's more kind of almost the afterthought. That's at least I remember reading that somewhere. That the key was to a good performance was getting the right Bruce Wayne. I
could see them saying that, but I don't know if that's the right call after seeing the Batman. I think Pattinson and the team who made this movie might have completely reinvented the way they approach future Batman, because Batman, like Bruce, isn't really needed in a Batman movie. It's all about Batman. We're just going to have a couple more minutes before we cross the streams over onto our Patreon exclusive roundtable. But let's close out with the Batmobile. What do you think of the new Batmobile?
Oh, it was killer. It was killer.
Oh God, the lights,
the
sound.
Yeah.
Was your seat like shaking?
Yeah, and that whole scene where you see it in the dark and you hear it, and then you start seeing the fire and lights and everything come on, and that was awesome. That was really cool.
It was like the vehicle version of this Batman. It was terrifying. And I wasn't in a D-box theater. I thought I was for that moment when it revved up, because they cranked the bass so much. My seat was actually like shaking like crazy.
Yeah.
And I've never really cared about the Batmobiles. Like I like the Keaton one. It's cool. I like the Tumbler. I love the Tumbler. But it's not really something that, I wouldn't put it as, one of my favorite all-time movie cars. The Interceptor is up there. Well, this is the Interceptor. Like this Batmobile is Batman's version of the black on black Duck's Guts, last of the V8 Interceptors.
Yeah.
And in this really great, slow-paced, intelligent detective movie, I enjoyed the break from that for 2 minutes or so of a Mad Max movie, and him just being Mad Max. I'm like, oh yeah, I've got to take a look and see what they have available. I know Jada made an 1/18 scale one with lights.
Yeah.
Spin Master has done a toy version of it with lights and sounds, electronics, and that thing is just so beastly. I think I'm gonna want to have a piece of it in my collection.
Yeah, I pre-ordered one a while back. I collect. Wait, can you see it at all? I don't think you can see how that moving. I collect 124-inch cars down there. And there's the Batmobiles right there and there. I have the Tumbler and the Keaton Batmobile. And I pre-ordered it for a while. I don't think it's even shipped to me yet. I think they're not shipping it anywhere because I haven't seen them on Amazon either. But yeah, for sure. Yeah, I ordered one of those.
Good to see you again, Akshay. Yeah, the score was amazing.
Yeah.
Another great Batman score. And Kurt, hello there. Thanks for joining us. Love the Batmobile. It was badass. I can't wait to see more of this universe. Bunch of shows apparently coming. Penguin show has been greenlit. Looking forward to seeing those. But folks, that's it for us today on the YouTube channel talking about Batman. Eric and I are now going to cross the streams and go over to our Patreon exclusive. So all the patrons watching along, we'll see you over on the Patreon in just a minute as we cross the streams. Are you ready to cross the streams, Eric?
Yep, getting ready.
Right. I have always wanted to use this line from Ghostbusters. Be on the other side. Thanks everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Have a great night and a great weekend. Take care, everyone.